One of the things that psychology does is it really studies in a scientific way our intrapersonal and intrapersonal behaviors and processes.
I think if you're going to work with people, it's nice to know something about what makes us tick. When I think about why should students take any classes, psychology, otherwise, I've started to flip that question around and say, why would you not want to know stuff?
Why did I choose to major in psychology? I've always had a strange affinity for trying to attempt to understand human behavior.
Well, it started with an interest in the brain from my biology classes. I fell in love with the brain, and then from there I took a psychology class and started to fall in love with how the brain interacts with our behaviors and our actions and stuff. And so I naturally went to the psychology route, and I started going into more psychology classes and finding a big interest in when the brain misfires and what actions that cause and stuff. And
I was originally actually going to school for special education, and I took an educational psychology class and a couple other gen ed psychology classes. And I was looking at the curriculum for the rest of the education stuff, and I was more interested in the psychology stuff, so I decided to do that.
I think overall I'm really interested in the mind-body connection. So I'm really interested in how what we think, the way we perceive our world, the way we approach it, how that influences not only our interpersonal relationships, not only the way we feel about ourselves, but also even our physiological functioning, and how those things are linked together and that we can't completely separate them.
Why did I choose psychology? When I first started Ferris, I was a pre-farm student, and toward the middle of my second semester, I realized that I was just doing it to be successful, not doing what I wanted to do, not doing something that would make me happy. So I took career counseling at Ferris, and the testing and some questions, I ended up choosing psychology because it mostly brought up the fact that I am interested in people and how they work, how the brain functions, and all that stuff.
I think the one thing that Ferris does that many schools do not is we have an undergraduate internship program. And that's a very flexible thing. We work with students, but I do know that we've had students who've worked in psychiatric facilities, who've worked in youth development programs, who've worked in school systems, who've worked with a number of service providers in various specialty areas under the supervision of a faculty member here and a licensed supervisor on site.
I think it's very beneficial because it's teaching you about yourself. It's letting you learn a little more about yourself and giving you insight into your own thoughts and behaviors. It can, I think, yes, I agree that everyone should take at least that intro to psych class and see if they enjoy it. And from there they can take more if they want. But yeah, I think it's a very beneficial class because it teaches you about yourself in a sense.
Oh, there's all kinds of benefits of taking a psychology class, like social psychology, even intro itself. It teaches you a lot about, it really explains why people do the things they do. Conditioning, learned behavior, a lot of basics like role modeling. You learn how essential it is that like our parents and the people that we look up to, how they're our role models, and we kind of mimic their behavior. It really explains a lot about who we are. Psychology it's the essence of who we are as human beings.
We want to make sure our students are as ready to be successful as they possibly can. So once we send them out and say, okay, you have a major in psychology, we want them ready for whatever comes next. For a lot of them, that is graduate school.
One of the first things I ask students is, what would you like to do? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years from now? Can you imagine your life 10 years from now? What would you like to do? And kind of explore their interests.
Preparing to grad school by trying to get as much clinical experience and research experience as possible. I'd like to be a neuropsychologist, so I'm trying to build research that they'll view as beneficial and let them know I'm really interested in the field. I'm currently doing research with Mindhole, and yeah, so I'm just trying to build all those clinical experiences. I'm going to try to, over the summer, try to get into a hospital and work with some neuroscience people. To learn more about the brain and the experts in the field and how they go about their business, learning about it and teaching people about problems with
And I think you'll get an opportunity to really tailor the program. That's one of the other great things about our psychology program is that it's very flexible. So you can take certain courses. One psychology major may take a lot of courses that look very different than another person because you're able to kind of tailor your interests and take the things that you're most interested in. So that's a benefit.